Bollywood, renowned for its singing, dancing, and melodrama. But its Jews?
It was actually shaped by a community where the women took front and center, and the Jewish women.
But there was an Anglo-Indian and a Jewish community that could also speak Hindi. That's how they were the initial heroines of our film industry.
The sexiest stars, the biggest films.
They, I think, showed India that it was cool for women to be out there.
Who would have thought it? Jewish superstars of India's silver screen. This is their story.
Muhurat shot Shalom Bollywood.
Roll camera.
Action.
He went to the red light district. But even the women prepared to perform in private weren't prepared to do so in public. So the roles of women were played by men, seen here in India's first film, Raja Harishchandra, where the king is with a bevy of cavorting girls all wearing wet saris, all played by men. But in this diverse nation, a solution was at hand. In a nation of over 1 billion Hindus, almost 300 million Muslims, and millions of Christians, were a few thousand Jews. Indian Jews were part of the non-Hindu and non-Islamic minorities known as Anglo-Indians, who embraced the new medium of film.
Soon enough, women began to take on acting roles. But these women were from the more progressive communities, not from the Hindu and the Muslim. And the most progressive community at the time was the Jewish community.
It wasn't just their willingness to strut their stuff that led these Jewish chicks to hit the silver screen, but their high cheekbones gave them the popular Hollywood look. And in the low-light filming conditions of the time, their lighter skin was a distinct advantage. They proved to be the perfect kosher ingredient to spice up the development of Indian cinema. It was a nice Jewish girl called Ruby Myers who shattered the taboo on female acting. From the early 1920s, She was the silent era queen of the silver screen, who went by the stage name of Sulochana, which means the one with the beautiful eyes.
Sulochana's eyes especially, they were luminous, like stars.
She was gorgeous. You cannot take your eyes off her.
In a land of many gods, Sulochana was so hot, she seemed divinely inspired. One reviewer described how she was shaped as if by the hand of Brahma at a particularly auspicious moment. Sulochana was an Indian female fashionista before such people existed. With makeup and coiffured hair, she naughtily wore her sari in a way that exposed a bit of cleavage. Sulochana became India's first female superstar. In Wildcat of Bombay, Sulochana played 8 roles: a gardener, a policeman, a socialite, a Hyderabadi gentleman, a young man, a detective, a street urchin, and a European, establishing an Indian cinematic record for the most roles played in any one film. The subcontinent became obsessed by this bold beauty. She was so popular that even Mahatma Gandhi included one of Sulochana's dance scenes in one of his promotional films. Throughout the 1920s, Sulochana was the star of stars. Like any good celebrity, Sulochana was at the heart of the party scene. Reveling in her fame and fortune, Sulochana cruised around Bombay in what is said to be India's first Rolls-Royce. She recalled, "Audience reaction was always important to me, so I used to visit the theatres dressed in a burqa to find out what the filmgoers thought of my portrayal." Sulochana blazed a trail other Jewish women soon followed. Specifically, another nice Jewish girl called Rose Ezra, who went by the stage name Miss Rose.
My grandmother's name was Rose Ezra. She was a movie star. She was quite naughty and full of fun and full of beans and loved her whiskey and a little bit too much.
Well, my mother grew up in a very conservative Sephardic Jewish family in Calcutta. In fact, very much in the center of the Jewish neighborhood. We were very much involved in the Jewish community over there.
Rose, like Sulochana, was a Baghdadi Jew. This community from across the Middle East arrived in India between the 16 and 1800s, both as traders and as a community escaping anti-Semitism. Back in 1920s Calcutta, Rose Ezra was married young, but she was soon divorced and down on her luck as a single mum. But salvation was waiting in the form of cinema.
And so we all packed up and left and came to Bombay in 1935. There was a lot of opportunity in Bombay in the movie industry.
Rose looked the part, and her groovy dance moves meant she quickly became the next big thing. Many of the roles Jewish stars had were a case of art imitating life. In Nai Kahani, Rose plays an educated, wealthy, modern woman. It's a story offering the best that Bollywood has to offer. Rose is traveling by train with her boyfriend when the train crashes into the water. A poor local villager heaves Rose and her lover onto dry land. Taking refuge in a temple, Rose is awoken by a beautiful singing voice and soon discovers its source. Rose wastes no time in convincing this pop idol to move to the big smoke and make his mark in the music scene. Rose teaches her musical prodigy the ways of wealthy Indian society. This includes the novelty of how to use a telephone. But her main task was introducing him to the ways of the stage. Rose's seductive liberal manner meant 1930s cinema belonged to her. Back in Calcutta, Rose's cousin, Esther Abraham, was a teacher at the Jewish boys' school, and she had been eyeing her cousin's success.
My name is Haider Ali, and I'm an actor and a scriptwriter in the Indian film industry. My late mother, born Esther Victoria Abraham, she had a dream to be an actress like her cousin Rose, and used to stand at the posters and watch her cousin Rose's film posters and say, I would like to be part of this and I would like to be on one of these walls someday. And that did come true.
It was a trip to Bombay to visit Rose that changed Esther's life forever. It was 1935 and Pramila visited Rose on a film set. But the director had a tantrum, despairing that Rose was too short for the role. Rose pointed to her cousin, Esther. And before you could say kosher papadum, Esther was signed up to Imperial Film.
I was just coming to visit, that's all, just for a holiday trip it was.
When the film became a big hit, and they found that this anglicized girl is a little attractive, a little talented.
Hello.
She became so popular
Good morning.
that they had to make separate posters, adding her to the posters and introducing Pramila.
Like Rose and Sulochana, Esther was given a more user-friendly stage name. This is one of the reasons why so few people know these stars are Jewish. Welcome to Bollywood, Pramila.
When the picture was released, I came back a star.
Pramila instantly became a record breaker for India's longest-running film and made the first film from the subcontinent to be screened at Buckingham Palace. Pramila's beauty was soon to bring her even greater acclaim.
She was the first Miss India of our country, 1947.
Throughout the 30s and 40s, cousins Pramila and Rose were cinema's leading lights, but Sulochana still held her own. So popular were Sulochana's silent era films that many were remade as talkies, such as Anarkali, a historical romance where Sulochana plays the wife of a Mughal emperor. Picking up where the silent hit left off, the talkie was one of the biggest hits of the decade.
आज आपने मेरे बच्चे को इस काबिल समझा कि वो सल्तनत का बोझ आपके साथ मिलकर उठाए।
With her offspring's life on the line after he gets wounded in a battle, Sulochana's character despairs.
मेरे बच्चे, गाओ अनारकली।
Just when all hope seems lost, he is revived by the presence of Anarkali, a common girl who saves the prince with her magical healing powers. However, trouble brews at the royal court when the fit-again prince rebels against his father and falls in love with this common girl. When the Mughal emperor is told of his son's secession threat, all hell breaks loose in the royal palace, and Sulochana tries to keep both her family and a royal dynasty together. Sulochana looks on despairingly as the prince tells his father he'd rather marry the common girl than become emperor. It's a tough gig being Mrs. Mughal as she mediates between father and son in a vain attempt to stop the royal court going into a royal meltdown. While Jewish women were front and center on the screen, behind the camera, Jewish men were also shaping what we now know and love as Bollywood. The first talkie, Alam Ara, Light of the World, in 1931, was written by a religious Jewish playwright, David Joseph Penkar. He established the future direction of Indian cinema by creating the all-singing, all-dancing format, now known and loved across the world. Another Jewish contribution to Indian cinema was the kiss. It was after Indian Jew Ezra Mir returned from working in Hollywood that he directed a film with more kisses than any other film until today. There was outrage from the censors, and the kiss was banned for decades. Jewish involvement with the screen kiss was indicative of the boundaries that Sulochana, Rose, and Pramila continued to push by pioneering a new type of role, the vamp.
If you smoked, or you drank, or you wore a skirt that was a little too short, or heels that were a little too high, you were the vamp.
The heroine has to be a docile, innocent simpleton. The vamp has to be a vivacious-looking, attractive, seductive woman who always the hero gets attracted to. If she passes by at a long distance, you have to turn your head. That attractive she has to look in an appearance, in a projection, that you have to give a second look.
A classic vamp role that Pramila played was the theatre star whose status was threatened by the arrival of a new actress in the 1942 film Basant. This new actress wins the heart of the man Pramila desired as her own. Vamps hold back at nothing, and Pramila tells her would-be lover that she will commit suicide unless he marries her. But Indian men are savvy to the ways of a vamp. A vamp will do anything to get the man of their desire. And what man could resist a good song and dance? Despairing at her inability to win over her target, Pramila tells her would-be lover that the other actress is seeing another man. But yet again, he refuses to believe her spin. Ultimately, the goodness of a heroine always triumphs over the evil of a vamp who puts Pramila in her place.
हमें क्या पड़ी है जो किसी का आंचल उखाड़े? चलो.
Pramila has to leave the theatre and the man she loved. The vamp may have lost her man, but the vamp was a winner. And Pramila's career scored big time as she capitalized on her sexuality.
They placed the camera so that you could see her figure, that is her hips, and also her breast. So the censors always said, this lady Pramila, she creates too much of sex oozing on that screen with her eyes. So cut her eyes off, that shot, you cut that shot off. And then cut that shot where her hips are being exposed, and then cut the shot where her breast have been exposed. So all in all, cut everything of Pramila. So my mother says, all right, then I'll sit at home and you give me a salary of 10,000 rupees per month, which I am earning, and then you can cut everything of Pramila.
At that time, he had got quite a number of our stars in jail. He thought he'd get me, but boy, he was very much mistaken.
It was on a film set that Pramila would meet the man who would become her husband, the Muslim actor Hassan Ali, known by his stage name Kumar. An angry director was berating Pramila for her performance. Kumar stormed in and told the director that is no way to talk to a leading lady. And before Pramila knew it, this Maharaja in shining armor pushed the director to the ground, grabbed Pramila's hand and walked off with her. But the director had the final word. And Pramila was swept off her feet by this man with the prowess of a Mughal.
It was all one big romance. For 22 years, all we did was to romance.
Kumar was a leading man of his time who knew how to belt out the numbers Pramila and Kumar were a celebrity couple, often cast together as they were in Chankar. As well as their careers blooming, so was their family, and they created a home based on multi-faith coexistence.
It became an amalgamation of Jews and Muslims staying together. So there was a bringing up of two cultures simultaneously. So we had a lot of Islam. We were taught the language, we were asked to read the Quran.
On screen, Kumar played roles that reflected India's diversity. In Bombay, the Jewish and Islamic communities lived side by side. As monotheists, they had more in common with each other than they did with Hinduism and its many gods.
I'm the product of two Jewish people. My mother is what they call a Baghdadi Jew. The Baghdadis came into India as traders in the late 1800s. My father is a Bene Israel. They are the origin of the Bene Israel is that washed up on the Konkan coast.
Jews first arrived in India over 2,000 years ago, when a group fled the Roman occupation of Israel and sought temporary refuge on the spice route they traded. But then disaster struck when their ship sunk in a storm. For 2,000 years, Jews lived in dozens of villages on the Konkan coast, a short boat ride from Bombay, where their faith blossomed amidst India's cultural diversity.
We were taken quite often as children to the beach along the coast there and told the history of our arrival to the country. The land is rich and most people live off the land. But it's a small town, and a lot of the ambitious ones would transit and come over to the big city.
That city, Bombay, was by the 1940s a film oasis where the career of Rachel's grandmother Rose was hitting a high.
My mother was very fond of clothes. She was very fashionable. She had a tremendous amount of saris, beautiful saris, and was known as the best-dressed movie star of that time.
She actually lived in a very beautiful place at Marine Drive, very beautiful house.
Rose was the hostess with the mostest, and after dancing at the Taj Mahal Hotel every Saturday night, the after party would be at her place.
She would invite the band and the boys over to the house. I grew up, I remember 13, 14 years old, learning how to jitterbug.
But it wasn't all good fun. Being a film star came at a price.
I remember her leaving early in the morning, and then I wouldn't see it. I would wait at her feet when she came back while she took her makeup off, like late in the evening. Don't remember having dinner together.
From the late 1940s, Sulochana's role changed as she got older, but she still had the power to excite controversy. In 1947, the Prime Minister banned Jugnu for its moral irresponsibility as a young man fell for Sulochana's vintage charms. In the 1940s, off-screen, she once again ventured where no woman had gone before by becoming a producer.
I think she lost a lot of money when her own company failed.
While producing may have been a financial failure, once again, Sulochana was smashing taboos. Pramila was quick to emulate her fellow Jewess.
Out of the window of the harbor bar, with the Taj, we saw this lighthouse, and we kept that as our symbol. And on the 15th of March, we became producers.
They started a company called Silver Films, produced about 16 to 18 movies with big stars, with Prithviraj Kapoor as a hero, Raj Kapoor as a hero, another film, Nargis, Motilal, Chandra Mohan, big banner and big time films. Some flopped, some were hit.
For Haider, the only career option was to go into the family business.
My first acting movie was Jungle King. I played Tarzan's son. I was 10 then, and thereafter I couldn't study. I wanted to be a film actor, a child actor. It was not easy. I struggled big. Song. And then I was gifted by my aunt, John Abraham, and interestingly, he left 8mm camera, an 8mm projector, an 8mm movie editor, I started making home films.
In the mid-1940s, India's struggle for independence was coming to a climax, and filmmakers joined the campaign. One film told a Jewish story to illustrate their point, in Yehudi Ki Ladki, or Jewish Girl.
And that's very much set in the times of Romans in what's now Israel. And that would have been seen as kind of an exotic storytelling. And often stories were set in such places to mask colonial races and non-colonialists, which were obviously really to represent the British and the Indian.
रंग मेरी जवानी का लिए झूमता घर आया है सावन रंग मेरी जवानी का लिए झूमता घर आया है सावन.
And that's really the beginning of the golden era that is really seen as being post-independence. And that's partly because that's seen as the golden era of India's history.
1956, 1957, 1958, 1959, 1956, 1957, 1958, 1959. दुनिया का ढांचा बदला, किस्मत का ढांचा बदला, आखिर तो खोलो तेरा लाला रोका. दुनिया का ढांचा बदला, किस्मत का ढांचा बदला.
And at the heart of Indian cinema's golden era was Raj Kapoor's RK Studios. It was in the golden era that one of RK Studios' most colorful characters hit the screen. That was Nadira.
Sulochana, Rose, and Pramila were, powerful, iconic actresses of their time. But then Nadira came along. She really took what they had and made it her own.
Nadira's first film was On, a big epic film, a sort of Mauritanian romance with the biggest male star of the time, Dilip Kumar.
मुझे आपका इनाम नहीं चाहिए.
मैं इसको शूट कर दूंगी.
She played that, very spoiled brat kind of a role. And the picture was a huge success.
Aan became the first post-independence film to achieve global status with releases across the world.
जाओ राजकुमारी को बैलगाड़ी में छोड़ो.
Picking up where the pre-independence Jewish stars left off, Nadira established herself as India's quintessential vamp in the iconic film Shri 420.
Hello.
She had a vampish kind of a role because she looked perfect for that role. It was so stylish. That was the introduction. It was so stylish. That stayed with the people. With the cigarette holder and the cigarette and the long gloves.
She wore these wonderful glamorous dresses and had hairdos and smoked a cigarette in a holder and was into money and had some sort of dubious male sidekick alongside her and, seemed to be all that was evil about the West in one person.
Goodbye, darling.
Taunting the heroine and enticing the hero. I mean, this is sort of quintessential vamp.
Her name was Maya, and the heroine's name was Vidya. So Vidya in Hindi is knowledge, and Maya is money. So it was the fight between a man who needs knowledge or does he need money? You see, India had just got its independence way back in 47, and this film was filmed sometime, I think, in 54. The youth of the nation was, quite aimless at that time. They didn't know what they were doing, how they would get there. So the film was about this young, educated, young boy.
Graduate.
Cannot get a job. And he's so frustrated in life, and then he resorts to, the wrongdoing.
2 रुपए 10 आने तुम्हारी तरफ से मैं डाल दूं।
Where he can succeed and makes a lot of money. So there's a fight between being righteous or being wrong.
तुम्हारे काम
So she is actually trying to get into society by the support of this lady called Maya, who was Nadira auntie. She had this great dress designed by a very famous designer in those days, and it was so fittingly tight. It was so good on her that she was not able to sit all through the shooting of that song. So to rest, they had this big, huge board at a certain angle, and she used to rest on that because the dress should not get spoiled, the dress should not, kind of split. She had to look absolutely curvaceous and gorgeous. She fitted into that character. She was an instant hit in the film.
Nadira was famous for her vamp line. Between two evils, I always choose the one I never tried before. Given that there had never been a taboo about male acting, Hindu and Islamic men had acted from the first days of Indian cinema. That one little Jewish man, David Abraham, was set to become a cinema legend. Like any good Jewish boy, David's family ensured he had a proper education, sending him off to law school. And while he reluctantly qualified as a lawyer, it was cinema that was his real love.
He was just bitten by the bug. He had to be in front of the camera.
For David, it was far more inspiring than law school.
One of the best universities is a film studio. It provides one with such infinite variety of experiences, so much food for thought, and such opportunity to study human character and behavior that as long as one is there, one feels that every person one meets is one's mentor.
In a land of burly heroes, it was a tough gig for a little Jewish guy, but he had exactly what it takes to become a character actor.
David, in stature, was only 5'2". He was bald, but he was extremely charismatic.
In 1954, he got his breakthrough, scoring a role that propelled him into superstardom.
The most famous movie that David made was Boot Polish. It was produced by the RK Studios. He said to Uncle, "Okay, David, I've got a role for you of John Chacha, Uncle John, where he played a bootlegger who looks after these two little children who are being abused by their aunt."
Then how this kindly man who's a Christian, his name is John Chacha, John Uncle, actually who's actually a cripple, how he looks after these two kids.
नन्हे मुन्ने बच्चे तेरी मुट्ठी में क्या है नन्हे मुन्ने बच्चे तेरी मुट्ठी में क्या है.
Like these poor children who are being abused and were being taught to steal and to beg, he felt, no, this wasn't right. So he teaches them to polish shoes.
So successful was this film that from 1954 on, David Abraham became commonly known as Uncle Chacha or Uncle David.
नन्हे मुन्ने बच्चे तेरी मुट्ठी में क्या है नन्हे मुन्ने बच्चे तेरी मुट्ठी में क्या है.
won India's top film award for boot polish. Plaudits were also coming Rose's way.
When she was at the height of her career, and one year she was given this award for being the top actress of the studio. It's like almost like an Academy Award for an Indian actress for those days. We're talking about the early 40s.
Yet, as quickly as her stardom shone, it suddenly faded into darkness.
Unfortunately, my mother Rose had an accident in early 1945, and she slipped and fell on her back and injured her spine. She wasn't offered too many parts after that. She was disappointed quite a bit.
By the late 1940s, the taboo on Hindu and Islamic women acting began to break down. And the Jewish foremothers of Indian cinema found themselves battling competition.
In the late 40s and early 50s, they started to look for more Indian-looking women. There were a lot of young Indian women that came into the business, one of them being Nargis. The movie industry was more accepted at that time in the early 50s. In the 60s and 70s, it became quite a popular career among the young women. My mother was depressed after that. I don't think she did any big lead roles in the late 40s.
Rose seemed lost, but soon she was swept up in a romance as good as any Bollywood tale.
About 1940s, when the war came along, my grandmother fell in love with an American man. He was here, he was with TWA, he was an airline man.
He fell madly in love with her at first sight. They married within a few months of knowing each other. Of course, he made sure she knew that she would have to come back with him to the US, but she really was in love with him. She really loved him and was willing to do that.
And then he wants to whip her off to a foreign land, and she's quite ready to go.
It was very difficult for her, coming from the kind of life that she had over there, being a celebrity, being a movie star. She was very lonely. She was pretty much home most of the time.
But it was all worth it for the love of her life, and there was solace in the local synagogue which Rose attended on major festivals. While Rose had given up the big screen for true love, on screen, Nadira continued playing with love throughout the 1950s and 60s. But success had its price. As Nadira put it, "I'm totally against the idea of being married and having a career at the same time, simply because you cannot have two careers at the same time. And God help you if you end up marrying someone from your own profession. It is the most colossal mistake you can ever make." From the 1970s, as Nadia became too old to play the vamp, her roles changed. Seen here with Sulochana in the film Julie.
Auntie, my daughter Julie. Oh, what a pretty girl!
She may have been getting older, but Nadira still knew how to have a good time.
Oh, don't eat me. Let us celebrate.
And she continued to enjoy the high life.
Every year on my father's birthday present at the party, She enjoyed herself. She loved her drinks. She was a great woman enjoying her time.
David was also enjoying the celebrity high life. He formed part of an Indian delegation to Hollywood.
They were fascinated that this little Indian man could really entertain all these big stars like Cary Grant and Elizabeth Taylor and Stuart Granger and Gene Simmons and all the big stars that he met there. They were just fascinated by him.
David's hobby was weightlifting, a popular sport in India that often featured in films. And he became an international referee for the sport. In the 1950s, David traveled to Israel for the Maccabi Games. He met Indian Jews who now called Israel home. But they hadn't left its beloved cinema behind. But David's role as an Olympic weightlifting judge led him to less friendly places.
Munich houses the Olympic flame as athletes from all over the globe gather for the traditional games. Officials hope that world tensions will not create an incident. Optimism dies as Israeli athletes are held hostage by Arab guerrilla terrorists who invade the Israeli compound.
And we were concerned that if they're going to kill these Israeli Jews, they may be killing all the Jews there. And he said, no, not to worry. They don't know I'm Jewish. They think I'm Indian.
He couldn't stop talking about it, particularly because these were his friends. At least the manager of that particular team was a friend of his, and it upset him very much, as a Jew as well as the sportsman.
Judaism was very, very important to Uncle David. He was very proud of his heritage. He loved his people. He loved calling himself a Bene Israel because that's what we were always known as. He had tremendous faith in God. He said, no matter what happens, it is already written.
While the Jewish and Muslim gods had coexisted in Pramila and Kumar's home, ultimately Kumar relocated to the Muslim state of Pakistan.
My father left us and migrated to Pakistan. That is after 23 to 25 years of our married life. My mother didn't go because she felt Pakistan is a pure Islamic state. India is secular, so she'd rather stay down here.
Now that the family was growing up, and I didn't want complications between India and Pakistan. I didn't want the children to, in that atmosphere of neither here, neither there, having a leg in between two. Till he decided to go, and when he decided to go, he knew I could not go. For 6 months, I didn't know whether I was here or there.
But when he parted, thereafter, a lot of Jewish culture was practiced in the house. The thing about my mother was she was a brilliant cook, brilliant Jewish cook. And we were literally brought up on marag. It's called a chicken soup, marag, which it has a clear soup with chicken in it, with carrots, cauliflower, green peas, French beans, and big chunks of potato and big chunks of whole onions, all boiled and made into a stew with grated garlic and ginger and coriander leaves and a lime squeezed in the end. Now that marag chicken soup was had with boiled rice in a soup bowl. It was mind-blowing.
Rose was desperately lonely in America and began to regularly return to India to spend time with her old friends and family.
The first thing they did when they came to India, my grandmother, my aunt, and my grandfather would go out to Chowpatty, which is, again, by the bay. And it's a beachfront. And in the evenings, there's all these, food stalls and Ferris wheels. And they literally, in the first 24 hours, they would hit Chowpatty, eat the spiciest savories they could find, wash it down with something called faluda and kulfi, which is the Indian ice cream, and then be sick for 2 days. But then they were fine.
When they heard she was in town, they would all come over, David, Abraham, and all her other friends. So we were back with the parties while she was there, and it was a lot of fun.
All this, dancing, and the bar was overflowing, and this would go on and on and on and on until 5 o'clock in the morning. They were lighting up a storm. She was just always the life of the party, full of fun and full of beans and full of presents. The suitcase opening was a big ceremony because one suitcase would be full of movies, all the new movies. So when they came, they would bring that. So it was that, sitting down the first few evenings and sharing the Hollywood movies with her.
Rose wasn't the only Jewish star who knew how to party.
He was invited to, I think, every party that was going on. When he walked into a room, he was like a magnet. People automatically were drawn towards him. And it wasn't like he wanted people to notice him, but they just did. One thing he had mastered was balancing a glass of liquid on his head. And then he would move his head like a dancer from side to side without the glass spilling. He loved to dance, be on the floor, and show all his moves. So he would be there, he would pick the most beautiful woman in the room and keep on swinging her through the whole place.
When once accused by a lady of stealing her husband's camera, David replied,
"My dear lady, I pinch bottoms, not cameras."
And when asked for his definition of adultery, David quipped,
"Two wrong people doing the right thing."
There was no lack of ladies attracted to this little Jewish man with a giant personality.
We often wondered why he didn't get married, but he felt that his profession was such that he couldn't provide the same attention to his family, and if he did, he would lose out on his profession. So to him, his profession was his family.
David was very friendly with Nadira. Nadira used to call him Papa. And he was like a father figure for her. And Sulochana, who was Ruby Myers, was also a very good friend of his. And these were all smoking buddies. They laughed, they talked, they told each other about their problems.
For Nadira, love had never been a problem on screen. But off-screen, Nadira had 2 brief, failed marriages. I have never really loved the men, I just married them. I guess I wasn't lucky enough to find the right person. For Nadira, faith was a great companion. I probably wouldn't even have this success if my undefaulting faith in God had wavered. I turned to God all the time. I would be lost without his constant guidance. But typical of India's cultural diversity, Nadira revealed that on her spiritual journey, in addition to synagogues, she visited dargahs, temples, and churches.
She was very Jewish from the point of view that she never forgot coming to pray on Rosh Hashanah. That's Shana, the New Year of the Jews, and Yom Kippur. She observed it. She would come with a lovely, beautiful sari. Everybody used to say, wow, there's she. Nadira's come to the synagogue. Nadira's come. At 15, I saw somebody very beautiful and said, wow, how beautiful she is.
That every Kippur, every year, just before the Jewish New Year's, where the fast starts at about 4 in the afternoon of the previous day, and the very next day you go to the synagogue around about 4 or 5 again. That's 24 hours. Then you sit in the synagogue with the prayers till they blow the goat's horn, which is called a shofar. And once that is blown, and then the skies are supposed to open and you're blessed, and then the fast is broken. That's after sunset, something like 6:30, 7 o'clock. Till then, not a drop of water. Even when my mother was about 87, she kept that fast. We also knew that Jewish song, Hawa, Agila, Hawa, Agila, Hawa, Agila, Be, Israel, is it? Hawa Nagilala, Hawa Nagilala, Hawa Gilana, Israel.
David, because of his getting older and being all alone there with nobody to look after him, he decided to emigrate to Canada. He came to live with us in 1979. Unfortunately, in 1981, 26th of December 1981, he suffered a stroke. The doctor told him he would never speak again. Here was a man who lived by speech, who talked for his living, and was being told that he would never speak again. And that really, 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 I think, was the deciding point for him. I think in his head he felt, if I'm not going to speak again, where is my point in living? And so on January, this is very emotional for me. 2nd of January, 1982, he suffered a massive heart attack and he died.
Reflecting on his career, David observed,
I have rubbed shoulders with a galaxy of talent. They have been wonderful. God bless them, and may they strive and thrive to put India on the map of the film world.
The early 1980s marked the passing of a generation of Indian cinema's Jewish stars. Sulochana died alone in 1983 in her dark, dank apartment, unable to pay her electricity bills.
She lived by herself. It would have been a very sad end to the wonderful life that she had as an actress.
But no one could deny her immense impact on Indian cinema, and the Indian government issued a stamp in her honor. It was the death of her beloved husband that triggered Rose's demise.
After her husband died, she lost the will to live. She became extremely depressed and just died 3 years later at the age of 74.
Nadira too had been reflecting on the end of her career.
She felt that she didn't get the right kind of treatment which she should have got from the producers.
Sushil?
The unfortunate part is as you grow older, the chances of getting films to act in becomes less. Very unfortunately, she used to drink a lot. She was lonely. She was very, very lonely. Whenever I went to see her, she said, Solomon, why don't you marry me? Why don't you marry me?
Nadira reflected. At times I cry because I am very lonely, but then I guess you can't get everything in life. When you are famous and successful, you are surrounded by loving people, but they disappear the moment you lose your stardom. Nadira died alone in 2006. Pramila acted into her final year. She died at the age of 96 in 2006. For those of you inspired to consider a career in Bollywood, you may want to heed Pramila's words of advice. Never give up. You have to keep trying and trying all the time till your last breath, and the opportunity will create itself.
So my mother was open-minded, but when she said, I die, I should be buried in a Jewish ritualistic manner.
By the 1980s, as one generation of Jewish stars was bowing out, another generation stepped up.
My entry into show business actually started with my interest in dance. I got in as a dancer on a show called Evita, which did fantastically well. We ran 3 years in Bombay. So being seen then on stage, I was plucked out and offered commercials.
In an uncanny parallel to her grandmother Rose's career, Rachel found herself pushing boundaries in undertaking roles once deemed taboo in India.
When I started developing, bits and pieces of my body that weren't there before, my mom would always say, darling, why don't you wear shorts? And then the naturalness with which I would do a swimsuit picture became a big thing. I don't know if I would have even gone to that world if I hadn't had the cushion of my grandmother.
Rachel is as committed as Rose was to her film career, and her eyes are wide open about the sacrifices this entails.
The women will look very hard for them to balance the marriage and the motherhood because everybody talks about settling down. I don't think you can have it both. I really don't.
Meanwhile, 50 years into his career, Haider is still looking for his big break.
This profession of cinema is only good to dream. It's a dream merchant. It dangles a carrot by which you never reach, but you always are running that someday you'll reach that carrot, and it's on your nose. It so happens a wind comes and it blows the carrot and you bite on it. But when that wind comes, you please wait, because winds are not made by men, it's made by nature. So you have to have the staying capacity to wait for that wind that will blow the carrot to your mouth and you'll eat on it. And she also gave me this prayer written in her own hands, which every morning she would say and every evening before sleep she would say, and she told me to say it whenever anything happens, even fear comes to you, or there's a calamity, or there's a good. Be sure you say this: Shema Israel Adonai, Eloheinu Adonai Ahed, Baruch Shem Kebot, Malchut Doi, Lehul Lam Wahed. She wrote it and she told me whenever you forget, you want to memorize it, I'm writing and giving it to you, you memorize it. When I get too depressed with her not being around, that's the time I say it. I also talk to her. I go to a photograph and I even complain about a lot of things, because my own career has been very rough, not like as smooth as my father and mother's career has been. I'm the only child from all my children who joined this profession. So I've not had it that smooth. So I complained. And I said, now that you're up there, communicate with your, I'll communicate with all the other gods, but communicate with your Israel God. What is he doing?
Haider often played the home dad.
Get the plates. I have struggled so much that now I don't want to dream anymore. I just want things happen. I'm nearing 60 now. I started when I was 10 of age. I don't want to do it anymore. So whatever comes my way, I will accept with dignity and do. I've already put in seedlings into the soil of the Indian film industry, and it's been 50 years. That's half a century. Plants will grow, fruits will come. Some will rot, some will fall. Some others will rot from my plant. Some will be left for me to eat on. And if there is nothing, I will still survive.
Yes.
You know, every time I did a commercial, most of the artists or the models or the talent would be put in a green room or a van, and I, on the other hand, would be slap bang in the middle of set, because I'd be absolutely fascinated and watching and interested in the process. And really, finally, I found, you know, just as I was hitting 30, something that just got me. In a country like India, to have 100 people on a set and it not matter if you're woman, man, white or black, Hindu, Muslim, anything, it didn't matter. Here was this force of people, and they were all coming together to make one thing. And I found that very, very powerful.
Haider inherited his parents Pramila and Kumar's interfaith way of living, and his film told an interfaith story. A true tale of a 14th century Islamic Mughal king who married a Hindu and declared as the law of his rule the best bits of over 40 religions.
After I told the director Ashutosh Gwarekar this idea, he told me, you put this story into 25 pages or more and bring it back to me. If it turns me on, if it excites me, we'll go further.
So I now am progressing within feature, doing as much editing work as I can, getting as much experience as I can in feature, but also simultaneously now I have started to write, which is a new thing for me. They say you make a film about what you know best, and that's the best kind of film to make. And I believe that. So I think it would be very interesting to actually talk about a community in a country where there has never been persecution, whereas that community has faced persecution everywhere else they've been. And then the bottom falling out from that community, everybody leaving, the mass immigration as there was, and maybe talk about the one person that was left behind, which would be yours truly. I would be fulfilled if I made one really good, meaningful film.
There's a tradition in Indian cinema that the shooting of a film begins with a Muhurat ceremony, where a coconut is cracked as an offering to the elephant god. And when Haider's film goes into production, he is given the honor of cracking the coconut.
I also, in this picture, Jodha Akbar, play a Sufi saint where I lip sync a song on screen. And I'm happy and grateful. This long journey of my struggle, he's giving me some ecstasy through this film. This is the best of my career.
If I could communicate with my grandmother, the first thing I'd want from her is a little bit of timely advice, because I think I'm at the stage right now that she was at when she was actually getting out, and I'm getting in. If she could say to me, I think she'd be cautioning me and maybe championing me, because maybe I'm doing what really she couldn't do. You know, maybe I'm taking the baton from her and running the next lap. Yeah, so I met Daniel Silverman, who came to India looking for an editor for a movie that was supposed to be shot in India, and the movie was never shot, but look what happened. We had a baby instead, and now I'm here, and I'm a new immigrant wife. Who would have thought?
Meanwhile, Haider and his daughter prepare to live the Bollywood dream.
The launch of Jodha Akbar, it was an experience of a lifetime. I had not experienced anything as such before. The glamour, the excitement, the nervousness. Till now, it has given me a recognition, a status which is massive. I had to say something, so in my own emotional way, I just summed up by saying, I would like to not talk of the film because I would like people to see it and identify with my statement of communal harmony living to live life and not fight while living in life. Not only in India, but even beyond. Different cultures, different life, but all are living in harmony. That, if the world becomes India, no, nothing like it.
So, ladies and gentlemen, now you know Bollywood's unknown story. Please give it up one more time for silent era queen Sulochana, groovy Miss Rose, the first Miss India Pramila, the quintessential vamp Nadira, and the feisty dude David. The Jewish superstars who put the shalom into Bollywood.